Hi guys, welcome back. OnePlus's 2021 flagship phone is this guy, which is the OnePlus 9 Pro. And this time there's a special thing happening with this phone, and it's tagged here on the back, and it's the collaboration of OnePlus with the legendary camera company Hasselblad. And this collaboration by OnePlus is to make the camera system the best in the smartphone market. But then if you're expecting miracles, you're not going to get it. But this is a great camera package and it does stand up, especially with the photo capturing. And for the price tag this phone is selling, you won't be disappointed with the camera system. On the rear, as you can see, there are 4 cameras, and in that the main sensor is a 48 megapixel camera with aperture f1.8. Then you get an ultra wide angle camera, which is a 50 megapixel one whose aperture is f2.2. Then the third camera is a 8 megapixel telephoto camera, which has an aperture of f2.4. And the last camera is a marketing gimmick one, which is a 2 megapixel monochrome camera, which has an aperture of f2.4. And here, like I said, the photos captured with the usual cameras are good to great, and in that the great part is applicable with the main camera and the ultra wide angle camera. The shots from the main camera looks very sharp and detailed with a bit of saturation, and also the dynamic range is great. Now with certain shots you will notice a bit of muted color schematic, but overall the photos look very much on par with other flagship phones. Now this color tuning might be the part where Hasselblad comes in, and to be frank, I do like the way the photos look. Now since the camera is a 48 megapixel one, you will notice an extra blurring effect while shooting a subject. So that's the case with the main camera, and your things are great, but there isn't any unique upper hand, and that happens with the ultra wide angle camera. I think as of now, this is the best ultra wide angle camera in any smartphone. The shots looks really impressive when compared to its competitors, and it's because the usual edge issues is not much evident, and also the colors look sharp, and even the detailing is excellent. Now the dynamic range could have been better, but when you consider the whole photo, it's like a even balance, and surely it's something that you can hype about. But that said, the telephoto camera, which has a 3.3x optical zoom capability, is just a fine one. You can capture good zoomed in shots if the scene is well lit, and I feel that's the only situation where you can use this camera, and that's the reason I did state the camera as an average one. But the main camera and even the ultra wide angle camera is good in dull lighting too. And about the last camera, it's something that you'll never use, and I feel this is the spot where Hasselblad's branding seems more of a gimmick. Well, if you're giving options, it's always better to give usable ones, and this 2 megapixel mono camera is not such a thing. And by the way, even though this is a disappointment, while OnePlus does offer macro photo mode and it actually works great. Macro shots looks detailed and there wasn't any focusing issue. So that's the photo capturing situation, and yeah, overall it's an impressive package. I feel the Hasselblad collaboration thing is more of the processing and color tuning side, and to an extent I think it's a good start. It's not something that's mind-blowing because the sensors are not made by Hasselblad, but then since for photos the outcome is pretty much on par or at times above the competition, for a start it's a bit promising. But that said, when it comes to videos, they look sharp and good, but then it's not gonna stand up against the iPhone or the Samsung flagships. You can record 8K video at 30 FPS, but for me, I do prefer 4K at 60 FPS setting, and in such a setting, the videos are to an extent stable, and also the colors look fine. And now while checking the front camera, it's a 16 megapixel wide camera with aperture f2.4. And here the selfies this camera captures is good if there is sufficient light. In such a scenario, the shots are sharp and the overall scene looks neat without any softening issues, but then while the light fades, there is a bit of grain and hence the image looks just fine. But then the skin tone wasn't altered, so that's a plus. And about the videos captured with this front camera, well, it's also good when you record in a scene which has excellent light. Stabilization is good even though it's electronic, and also there wasn't any focusing issue. So that's the whole camera situation, and here the OnePlus Hasselblad collaboration hasn't made a top class unique camera package, but instead it's something that stands well with the competition. Here the advantage we get is with the photos captured, and that too the main hype should be given to the ultra wide angle camera because that sensor is a great one. And about videos, I feel there is plenty of room for improvement, and one more gripe that I have is that the shutter speed has a bit of lag. I mean with the OnePlus 9 Pro at present when you click the capture button, there is a slight delay and hence you might face issues if you are trying to take a picture of fast moving subjects. Well, this can be fixed with the software update, and I hope OnePlus does that. So now that we have checked the main hype about the OnePlus 9 Pro, well, as a conclusion for that hype, I would say that the camera system in this phone is top for photo capturing, especially when you consider its price. And here is the present pricing, and this is a much more expensive territory while we compare with the last year's OnePlus 8 Pro, because the OnePlus 9 Pro's top variant's pricing is 70,000 Indian rupees, and for that you need to make a drastic improvement from your previous version's flagship, and with the main hype thing, well, the photo capturing has improved. And I think that's the only change that has happened, because the rest of the stuff is the typical OnePlus. And I do mean it, because the first time I held this phone, it was like this form factor is a very familiar one, and it's undoubtedly a OnePlus phone. I mean, just take a look at the design. There is a slim aluminum rail with good quality buttons, and also the famous mute unmute slider is present, and the front and back is glass. And this glass is Gorilla Glass 5, and here since the color I have is called the Morning Mist, well the back glass texture is gloss and it does attract fingerprints. Now the other two color options seems to have a matte texture, so if you're someone who likes the back glass to look neat, I'll suggest to check the other two color choices. And here as you can see, the back design is a bit boring. This is a very familiar design, and that's not only from the back but it's evident throughout. This curved glass has been the OnePlus thing for a long time, and that's why I said the moment I took the phone, it felt very familiar. The phone feels good in the hand because it's fairly slim, and also the weight is not on the heavier side, and also the weight balance is perfect too. But then the phone is a bit slippery, so casing it might be a safe thing. And the plus point is that you get a case bundle with the phone, and this time the case is not a transparent one but instead it's a colored flexible one. And here from a design perspective there isn't anything new, and the only good part I felt is that the build quality still remains excellent. But that's the same we had with the last year's OnePlus 8 Pro, and actually the same thing can be noticed in almost all the remaining factors, because while we check the display at a glance, it looks very much identical to the last year's panel. This one is a 6.7-inch Quad HD panel, and it's an AMOLED one with pixel density of 525 ppi. Now the max refresh rate of this display is 120 Hz, and this time it's a LTPO display. So the refresh rate is dynamic, and that will help with the battery life because the 120 Hz refresh rate is not needed all the time, and hence at those instances it can be lowered to save battery. And here this panel has HDR10 Plus support, and the peak brightness level it can reach is 1300 nits. And overall, while using the phone, the experience from the display is great. The bezels are very slim and the hole punch is perfectly done, and also the viewing angles is good. The display is an excellent one to use in any lighting environment, and overall I feel even the curved edges wasn't creating much of an issue. So if you're into media consumption or gaming, you'll enjoy the experience from this display. And to back the display for a perfect immersive experience, the dual speakers provided is also great. The speakers get very loud with no distortion or rattling, and also the stereo separation is nice. Now the quality of the sound is not very rich, but still it's a good one for almost all type of contents. But then if you ask me whether there is any drastic improvement for the OnePlus 9 Pro compared to the OnePlus 8 Pro in terms of display and audio, well I would say it's not that much. And actually as of now, this is the same even with the performance. Now the internals has been upgraded to the latest Snapdragon 888 chipset, and about the RAM, it's either 8GB or 12GB, which is LPDDR5, and the non-expandable storage can either be 128GB or 256GB, which is UFS 3.1. So there is upgradation, but then while using the phone, I didn't notice any drastic speed improvements. It's basically because the OnePlus 8 Pro even now is smooth and fast, and that's the same with the OnePlus 9 Pro. I didn't notice any lag or hiccup throughout my usage time. Let it be simple tasks or extremely intense ones, well this phone handles all of them with ease. Now even while gaming for an extended period of time, the phone doesn't get very hot. And about the RAM management, well, with the 12GB RAM variant, there was no issues. The present software version is Android 11, and the skin used is OxygenOS 11, and this UI is still fairly stock, and overall with the top performing chipset and a fast refresh rate screen, every scroll, swipe and animation is butter smooth. And here with the user experience as of now, I feel there isn't any drastic upper hand, but then in the long term scenario, well you'll notice the advantage, and also the software support is something that the 9 Pro will shine at. But still, this is a trend that we see with phones in terms of annual upgradation, and here there isn't any unique stuff to differentiate the 8 Pro with the 9 Pro, because even the 8 Pro had 5G support like this 9 Pro. And in India at present, 5G is not available, so I'm not sure about the 5G speed and how it's gonna impact the battery life. And while talking about battery life, well the battery capacity hasn't changed much with this 9 Pro. It's a 4500 mAh battery, which with my usage gave a screen on time of approximately 5 hours, and if I was following an average usage style, that time can be pushed to 5.5 hour range, but then this is a sure one day phone, and that's applicable to heavy users as well as average users. But the good part here is that the charging method available is very fast, and that's applicable to both wired as well as wireless charging. Wired charging speeds can be maxed at 65 watts, and you get a 65 watt charger and a USB-C cable in box, and if you charge with that, the battery can be charged from 0% to 100% in under 30 minutes. And about wireless charging, the max supported speed is 50 watts. But then for that, you need to buy the special wireless charger from OnePlus, and the claim that OnePlus makes is that if you charge with the 50 watt OnePlus wireless charger, the battery can be charged to 100% from 0% in approximately 43 minutes. So the charging speed with the OnePlus 9 Pro is excellent, and that's an upgrade, which is a welcome one, and here even while fast charging, the phone doesn't get very warm. And also by the way, the phone does support reverse wireless charging, and the phone also has IP68 rating, but then these two things were also present with the OnePlus 8 Pro. And here the unlocking method is fingerprint unlock, and it's a typical OnePlus scanner which is very fast and accurate all the time, but then with this OnePlus 9 Pro, it's set a bit on the lower side. And about the Bluetooth version, it's 5.2 and the Wi-Fi version is 6, and you even get NFC and all the other sensors. And lastly, one area that felt like an upgrade is the haptics. The vibration feedback felt more precise with not so high intensity, and hence OnePlus has used it in more areas. And also, by the way, if you're wondering about the number of SIMs that can be used, well, it's 2, and both must be nano SIMs. Well, I guess that's everything about the OnePlus 9 Pro. And after checking all the stuff, there has been upgrades with this phone, but then all the upgrades that has happened is surely not drastic. And to be frank, I feel if you're a OnePlus 8 Pro user, there is definitely no need to upgrade. The price hike is probably for the Hasselblad stickering, and to an extent there is improvement with the camera, and that is noticeable with the photos captured. But other than that, there isn't any standout thing which makes it feel like this is a totally changed new OnePlus phone. And hence that's something to keep note of. But then if you're not a OnePlus 8 Pro user and you're planning to buy the OnePlus 9 Pro, well then for sure in this segment it's a great phone which is a direct competitor to the Galaxy S21 and the iPhone 12 mini. And in that comparison, if you're a person who prefers a phone with a great display, a clean UI with great performance that makes the user experience a joy, and you need a camera system that does take great photos, and also you're into very fast charging speeds, well then the 9 Pro is the one to go for. That's all for this video guys. Hope you liked it. If so, a like is much appreciated and a sub to the channel will be awesome. See you again in the next one. Till then, bye.